Chapter 26. Heirs Together in the Grace of Life. Sarah the Beautiful. If I had been the one authorizing exceptions, I would have released Sarah from obeying her husband on at least 2 occasions. But I have been wrong. Sarah chose to obey Abraham even when he lied and told her to lie because he was afraid of what could happen if the king knew she was his wife. Hebrews 11 presents Sarah and Abraham as examples of faith. In 1 Peter 3, she is honored as being the woman who called her husband Lord. Abraham was God's man. God had called him out to be the father of a great nation. Yet Abraham, out of fear for his own life, told his wife to lie, a lie that would put her in danger of sexual advances from another man. Do you remember how Sarah responded to these situations? It happened twice. Once when she was young and beautiful, and once when she was quite old, but still very lovely and desirable woman. One day Abraham came in and announced to his wife that God had told him to move far away from both their families to a distant land. When asked which land, Abraham couldn't say because he didn't know. Abraham spent much of his life traveling around looking for a city whose builder and maker was God. He never found that city, and there were many trials and hardships along the way. How would you like that type of life? Would you have stood by your husband as a man of God in the face of such lack of evidence? Genesis 12:10-17. And there was a famine in the land, and Abraham went down into Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was grievous in all the land. As the city in Egypt came into view, Abraham looked over his shoulder at his beautiful wife, and his heart melted with fear, a carnal response to a God who promised to bless him and keep him. And it came to pass that when he came near the city into Egypt, that he said unto Sarah his wife, Behold now, I know that thou art a fair woman to look upon. Therefore it shall come to pass, when the Egyptians shall see thee, that they shall say, This is his wife, and they will kill me. But they will save thee alive. Say, I pray thee, Thou art my sister, that it may be well with me for thy sake, and my soul shall live because of thee. What a terrible burden to put on a woman. Make her feel that she had to lie in order to save her husband's life. She must have also known that she had to be in danger of being taken by another man. Of course, Abraham was right about the Egyptians, who, when they saw Sarah, were very impressed with her beauty. And he entreated Abram well for her sake, and he had sheep and oxen and asses, and men servants and maidservants, and she-asses and camels. Sarah was taken to special quarters reserved for brides-in-waiting. What a state of mind Sarah must have been in. Her husband was supposed to love, cherish, and protect her. Where was he now? Abraham was out getting gifts in return for his lovely wife. But Sarah obeyed. If she had come to me for counsel, I would have had a hard time telling her to obey her husband and keep quiet. But God honored Sarah's obedience. And the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abraham's wife. Since Abraham was fearful, God had to come to Sarah's rescue in a supernatural way. Do you let God be God in your life? There will be times when your husband is dead wrong, as was Abraham, and you will need to obey your husband and commit your way unto God. If this were the only time Abraham reacted like this, we could say, oh well, he learned his lesson. But no, he did the same thing again. In Genesis 20, finds Sarah as an old lady, but she still must have been a desirable woman. The Bible tells us that Abraham journeyed to the south country. The king of Gergar got to look at Sarah and asked Abraham about her. Good old macho Abraham said, She is my sister. So this king took Sarah in anticipation of her becoming his bride. Again Sarah went along and obeyed her husband. If it had been I, you would have seen me giving Abraham a little spiritual training. Something like, Abraham, why can't you just believe God will take care of us? Please don't put me in this position again. The Bible only records that Sarah simply did as she was told. Do you grieve over the situation your husband put you in? Tell me, how would you react if he put you in this one? Would you refuse to obey? take authority into your own spiritual hands? This time the Bible tells us that God sent the king a dream, saying, Behold, thou art but a dead man for the woman which thou hast taken, for she is a man's wife. God cared for Sarah and kept her pure. I am thrilled when I see God delivering a woman from her husband's folly through dreams, plagues, wrecks, sicknesses, and even death. How could Abraham, such a man of faith, do such a faithless thing? How could Abraham, who believed God for great and mighty things, not take better care of his wife? We know he loved her dearly. Abraham was just that. He was a man. All men make mistakes. A woman's place is simply to obey for God's sake, not for right's sake. If you wait until you feel that your husband is right before you obey him, then you will seldom obey him, and you will never enjoy the miracles of God. God chose a woman. While Abraham was learning to obey God, Sarah was learning to obey her husband, and God was busy doing miracles for both of them. God chose Sarah as surely as he chose Abraham, and took an obedient woman to become the mother of a great nation. Sarah wasn't Abraham's only wife, nor was Isaac Abraham's only son. Hagar, Sarah's maid, who bore Abraham's son Ishmael, was treated with very little regard by Abraham. When Sarah, in jealous rage, demanded that Abraham cast Hagar and her son out into the desert alone, God told Abraham to do as she said, thus fixing in Abraham's heart that only through Isaac's seed would come all the blessings he had promised. Abraham married again after Sarah died, yet you never hear anyone mention his wife. The 6 children Abraham had with Keturah merit just one little verse in Scripture, recording the fact that he had additional children. I know that for Abraham to be the man he was, Sarah had to be a powerful engager. There must have been times when Abraham became discouraged. I look and I look for the city whose builder and maker is God, and still no city. Well, Abraham, Sarah might have laughingly told him, our life has been a lot more rewarding for looking, and we have nothing better to do, so we'll try again tomorrow. Who and what would my husband be if he had married another woman? Have I made it possible for him to be a strong, confident, aggressive man of God? Here I allowed God to direct his life and work. Have I appreciated his calling and interests? Have I been a helpmeet for my man? Is he a better, stronger, more capable man for having had me as his wife? If God were creating the perfect lady for him, would it have been me? Over the years, I have, on many occasions, seen what appeared to be a good woman married to a man who seemed to be worthless, no account slob. Finally, after years of abuse, the good wife divorces her drunken husband, with everyone agreeing that it was the only thing she could do. Within a year, the worthless drunk marries again. A few months after his marriage, he stops drinking, without the aid of a 12-step program, and then spends the rest of his life working steady, enjoying his new family, loving his new wife, and never touching another drop of liquor. I have enough sense to know that some men are addicted to alcohol, porn, and laziness regardless of their wives, but I have witnessed the above scenario too many times to dismiss it as insignificant. This is by no means advocating divorce and remarriage. Rather, it says that if some worthless men had wives who were more, you fill in the blank, they would not be so worthless. God chose this one special man and this one special woman to become the father and mother of a great nation. Sarah wasn't commended for being a wonderful mother. She spent most of her life childless, being an old woman before her only son was born. And then she died before Isaac was grown. She was commended because she believed God and called her husband Lord. She was the kind of wife God needed to make the kind of man God chose to bring forth a great nation. God says to Abraham, For I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of the Lord, and do justice and judgment. Are your children rebellious? Is your home in shambles, and you cannot get help from your husband? Perhaps the problem lies in how you respond to your man. Even as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, whose daughters ye are, as long as ye do well, and are not afraid with any amazement. When two become one. Dear friends in Christ, I am a minister. I recently listened to a tape a pastor recorded about a woman learning to honor and respect her husband. It was a message to women, but I thought I needed to learn how to better help married couples, so I listened to it carefully. I noticed myself strangely moved by the message. I have a great wife and kids who love and respect me, yet I realized that I longed to be respected and honored by them in ways that are not happening. Although it was difficult, I am not given to emotionalism much, but could not deny the intensity of my longing and feelings. I shared with my wife my need to be respected by her and our children. I also shared my desire to have the companionship with her that the tape described as something very much needed by men from their wives. I know I could never have told her that before I heard the tape. My wife was responsive to this and said she did not realize how important this was to me, and she was pleased and even blessed to know how important her involvement in my ministry was. Interestingly enough, I shared the tape with a couple of men, and they felt similarly and had similar responses from their wives. Again, the realization that this man she married felt incomplete without her involvement and respect gave these wives a great sense of purpose. I realize now how much I needed her. I really need her, not just to cook my meals and warm my bed, but to be the encourager of my soul. Without her there, ever present with me, I know I would feel empty. Now we both realize how precious it is for us to finally understand how it feels to be one. Pastor Ben. A wise woman seeks to be part of her husband's life. His interests become her interests. She looks for ways to help him in all his endeavors. When he needs a helping hand, it is her hand that is there first. Heirs together of the grace of life. Pastor Ben was hungering for his wife to be an heir together with him, his unfulfilled need to be the king of his kingdom, and his failure to receive the deference and reverence that comes from that position caused him to feel alone. He had a need for his queen to support him. No doubt she was so busy being a good wife and mother that she forgot her most important purpose for existing. Likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife, as unto the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together for the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered. 1 Peter 3:7. In our modern culture, we women push to accomplish so much outside the home. Most of these things are not of God. They are just pursuits of vanity to crown our minds and cloud our spirits and cause us to forget that we were created for the man to whom we are married. We need to lay aside activities outside the home that push us and the kids to the edge of exhaustion and confusion. Homeschooling is not the problem. It is the ambitious goals you set. God's will for all married couples is that they walk life's path hand in hand. Many husbands and wives are running circles around each other, seldom meeting in the middle. We are so busy driving the kids to their class or that event that we lose sight of being heirs together. Even church activities rob us from God's plans for us as a couple. Get off the phone, lay down romance novels, turn off the TV, stay off the web, reduce outside visits or women's classes, and focus on putting your time into what your husband is doing and what your children need. That is how you can better meet his needs, and it is the beginning of learning to be an heir together with him of the grace of life. Pastor Ben's soul hungered for a real soulmate. He did not want his wife to be a performer for the church, the homeschooling community leader, or to win the best housekeeping award. He wanted a woman to tell him he was wonderful. He needed a woman to meet him at the door with a smile. He longed to be the most important activity in her life. He needed her with him, and the wife see that she reverenced her husband. He needed to be her king. Many couples live their whole lives together and never really bond. They are just two people sharing the same house and dividing up responsibilities. They live together, never fuss or fight, raise their children, yet never function as a team. He does his thing and she does hers. She doesn't really know his business or care. He is bored with her many daily activities. There is little in their lives that could be done just as well apart. When he drives to the store, it never occurs to him to have her ride along. When she goes out for a few minutes, it feels as though it would be a nuisance to have to tell him where she is going and when she will be back. They are married, sleep together, raise children, share duties and chores, but they are two separate people going about life. The wife gets busy with her children and the church and bonds with her best friend at church. She shares more emotionally with other women than she does with her own husband. Women bonding with other women instead of the perfect picture of Christ in the church. Today, we have a perverted expression of women satisfying women. What a disgusting mess. The husband works and finds fulfillment in his success, yet in his heart he is just like Adam was before Eve was created, incomplete, and like Adam, he is alone. It is not good. Life passes him by, leaving him unfulfilled. Children grow up, and somewhere around 40 or 50 years old, when the husband has built his personal empire, hubby's long-lost need for a real soulmate is revived. Suddenly, his goals and accomplishments don't seem so important. That man, who has sexually resisted other women all his life, is suddenly vulnerable to women who show interest in him as a human being and as a man. He can now enjoy the alien company of some lady who shows him deference through her interest in his dreams, hopes, and joys. Your husband needs you to be his helpmeet, his lover, his best friend. You need to lay down your own agenda and become his queen. I stand amazed. Dear Debbie, I found your website. What a blessing. I have learned so much from the submissive white tape comments. I am learning about being a submissive wife, and it is amazing to see my husband absolutely bloom before my eyes. We have been married for 15 years, but this is the first year I have kept my tongue quiet. Any request I have, I tell God about it, and He provides through my husband. It is so cool. Things have changed so very quickly. If you only knew what life was like before. I won't go into detail, but let's just say I now have beauty for ashes, and it is absolutely God's doing. I know that I had nothing to do with it, and I am glad for that. God is jealous for my husband, and He will not allow me to change him. Sometimes I can almost hear God tell me, "See, daughter, you finally gave him to me, and now I am fixing him better than you would have ever thought. He is my son, and I take pleasure in working with him. Keep having that faith that I will work in your husband's life, because I am not done with him yet, and I am not finished with you either. Lift up your head and praise me with joy as I complete this work. This is your job, daughter. Praise him with joy, always for the work that I am doing in him. When things go hard, I praise God and give the circumstance to him. I've learned that our prayers will not be answered if we harbor bitterness. Deb, my house is changing from week to week. I can see the work going on before my eyes, and I stand amazed. The more I forgive in my heart, the more wonderful changes there are. Please let your people know that forgiveness really is the key. And yes, continual forgiveness, so that our prayers will be answered. 1 Peter 3:7. Likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto his wife, as unto the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together for the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered. When I stopped dictating the answers to God, then some of the questions got answered, better than I had ever hoped. If you only knew where I was a few years ago. God is so good. Be blessed. Jill. Early roots. The seeds of bonding are planted early in the marriage. When a young wife gets bored and lonely being at home by herself, she spends her day preparing for her husband's return each evening, and she looks forward to their weekends together. She spends the lonely hours planning for him, cooking for him, cleaning for him, and eagerly hungering for him. His spirit flourishes, and his love for her grows when he sees her need of him. It is this process that makes two people learn to depend on each other. When a young wife gets on the phone with her friends or leans heavily on her mother, she never develops the need to depend on her husband emotionally. Her husband has spent his youth without her, so he tends to keep on functioning as an independent man. He doesn't instinctively sense her needs, and she doesn't yet know that it is he that she needs. They too often end up as two people living in the same house, raising children, leading in the church, and are what the world thinks are the perfect family. Yet both know that something is missing. Bonding and becoming heirs together starts with the wife because she is the weaker vessel and has the greater need. It is her visible need of him that awakens him. If she pours her life into pleasing her husband and serving him, he will develop a protective, nurturing instinct towards her. As he gains confidence that his heart is safe with her and that she places his welfare first, he will begin to trust her with his innermost being. The Proverbs 31 woman was a major success in many areas of her life, but in laying a foundation for her success, the verses tell us that the heart of her husband does safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. She will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. Proverbs 31:11-12. Without this foundation, a man will never bond. Remember my queenly friend who was a crown to her husband? Even in his unsaved condition, he knew that when he brought those men home, his wife would not disgrace him by being moody or upset. When a woman bonds with her man, she gains his strength and stability. As a couple, they can accomplish more than they would ever accomplish standing alone. He gives her emotional strength to deal with the issues of life. When he can trust her judgment, it will help him become wiser and more in tune with the needs of others. A man does not have to be a nice, sweet guy who never once forgets a special occasion. He doesn't even have to be saved, but if he trusts his wife to do him good, he will bond with her. If she opens up to him, he will fill her need. The wife does not need to be cute, hardworking, or smart, but if she honors and loves her man, she will have his strength, helping her become more than what she has ever been without him. He only needs this woman to pour her life into his, for him to pour his soul back into hers. But if she stands apart and complains because he is angry, lazy, not a good daddy, or works too much, he will never pour his soul into the kind of woman. If she spends her days running from event to event or from person to person, and if she finds emotional solace in her daughters, mother, or friends, he will not pour his strength into her. Someday her daughters will get married and no longer need a mother. In time, her mother will pass on, her friends will move on, and she will find that he has found someone else to be his soulmate, his helpmeet, because he didn't find it in her. Yet when a plain, ordinary woman with a dull personality, without many skills, pours herself, her time, joy, thanksgiving, and even her praise, fear, and uncertainty into a plain, ordinary man, they both become stronger, more capable, and a wiser human being. People will come to them for help and encouragement. It is so easy to spend our life lamenting, "Oh, if only my husband were saved, or more spiritual, or not so angry." No matter who or what your husband is, your job is to be his helpmeet. When you approach him with light in your eyes, that light will reflect back to you. God is the master at making heavenly marriages. Becoming heirs together for the grace of life is God's highest plan for husbands and wives. It is the great mystery, the pattern of Christ and the church. The inheritance is great passion, stability, wisdom, joy, love, and balance. God's blessings are so much greater than any tongue or writer can ever tell. From a thankful helpmeet. Here is a letter that was sent to me from a thankful lady. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Pearl, I thought you might be interested to hear of my husband's passing, and what a blessing it is to have been married to a husband who lived what you teach. He went out to do yard work in the afternoon on September 24th, and as he went out the door, he turned to me and said, "It has been a wonderful life with you." Those were the last words I ever heard him say. He came in a few minutes later, went into the back room, and dropped dead of a heart attack. He was always telling me how he loved me and would always thank me for meals and all the things I did for him. He was a wonderful, godly husband, and it is so lovely to have those words to remember. We were married for 56 years. Keep reminding people that marriage is the most precious relationship we have on this earth, and it is only for this earth, so make the most of it, and don't waste time. The Lord is sufficient for all things, and I am receiving from Him all I need, and oh, how I miss the half of me that is gone. Love in our Savior. Marin. Marriage is the most precious relationship we have on earth. Has God changed you? Go back to the list of 10 things you recorded at the beginning of this book, where you were once ignorant of God's plan. Now you have the truth concerning your role as a helpmeet. Nothing will ever be the same. Fear God. I Am His Water by Debi Pearl. I am His water. He gazes at me as I ripple over the rocks, the sun glistening in 1,000 places over my surface. I dance and play, delighting Him day after day. So beautiful, I hear Him say. I am His water, lovely and laughing. He thirsts for me like a man in a burning desert. Hot, dry sand burning his throat, the scorching sun beating upon him. He seeks me. I am his deep well filled with fresh, clean, abundant water, always there, waiting to quench his thirst. I am his water, fresh, clean, abundant. He looks for peace. His soul grows troubled. Rumors abound. He struggles. He comes to me. He lies in the soft green carpet of my banks. I am the deep, still water. Although he does not touch me, I give him rest, solace. I am his water, deep, still, I bring him peace. He has forgotten who he is. He searches for reality, to reclaim his personhood. He stumbles and falls on his knees beside me. He stares into my depths, searching for truth. I lie still and reflect the man he is, good, strong, true. He sees and is reassured. I am his water, reflecting, reassuring, reminding him of who and what he is. He has learned to trust me. I have earned his trust. I have danced and laughed for him. In the bright sunshine, he thought me beautiful. I have been clean, fresh, and abundant water. I have yearned always to quench his thirst. Water, abundant water. I have been quiet and deep. I have soothed his troubled soul. He has found rest beside me. When he peered into my depths, searching, I reflected back to him strength and honor. He had no fear with me. He was safe being the man he was created to be. Now he plunges into my cool, deep water. I hear him laugh as he surfaces. I feel his muscles relax. I see him find glory and honor. Other men marvel. I am his water.
In closing, God is awesome and terrible in his judgments. He is also full of mercy and of grace. His strong desire is to bless his people, but too often, by our carelessness, we force him to judge. I believe he wearies of judgment. He is looking, searching, calling out to those who will hear him. He calls your name, just as long ago in the night hours he called the boy Samuel. Just as he came to the handmaiden Mary, he softly calls your name. Will you hear him? God is looking for helpmeets, ladies who will honor what he said in his letters of instructions, so he can use them as vessels of blessings. Blessings. He has so many blessings and so few willing vessels. I can almost see him standing there, leaning over the portal of heaven, watching, waiting, and listening for that lovely musical sound of joyful laughter wafting up through the heavens. Yes, I hear one answering the call, "Bring me the cup." And the angel hands over the cup of chastisement and judgment, And God replies, "No, not that one. The large one full of blessings is what this little gal needs." And the angel smiles as he puts the large blessing cup into God's eager hands. Smiling, God begins to pour the blessings forth, spilling out blessings faster than they can be received. The angel leans over so he can see, and then he too hears the beautiful sound of thanksgiving floating ever upward as a sweet aroma to God. He is an awesome God of blessings and delight. He is ever willing and ready to bless those who honor him. Do you hear him? He is softly and tenderly calling your name. Be the helpmeet I created you to be. Believe me, trust me, obey me, and then watch what I will do. Showers of blessings. Oh, that today they might fall.